Milking 5 Minutes at Freddy's by making it into another list? Yes. Yes, I am. Hello there, I'm TheGamingFan, and today I want to rank the FNaF games again, but this time based on how scary they are. Horror is subjective. Obviously, the same thing that scares me is not going to scare you. Duh. Yada yada. Moving on. If you want to make this exact same list, but from your perspective, or a completely different list, hit me up and I will make it into a video for you. It's as simple as having the list ready when you contact me. Alright, with that in mind, let's get started with the least scary FNaF game, which is not what you were probably expecting. It is 5 Minutes at Freddy's Ultimate Custom Night. Ultimate Custom Night really isn't meant to be scary, it's more just like a nice gesture from Scott Cawthon to the fans. It was just a free, big custom night game that's just fun to play, you know? You hop on, you play it. I guess it could scare you, maybe, but it's not really meant to be scary, it's just meant to be fun to play, I guess. So it's kind of hard to hate on that fact whenever it's not really meant to be scary. I guess looking at some things can be kind of creepy, but, I mean, it doesn't really go beyond that, in my opinion.
Don't be shy.
Number 8 is Five Nights at Freddy's 3. This one tried to be scary, and failed. Really bad. Springtrap's jump scare is pitiful, and although it's possible he can jump you if you have one of your tablet things up, it does not happen very often, and he just has a really bad jump scare. The phantoms don't really scare you all that much. The only one that could maybe get you is Foxy, if you're not paying attention to what's in the room in front of you, and he kind of blends in back there. You know, he can jump you, I guess. Other than that, 3 basically just has a good atmosphere, but it does not execute on that very well at all. 3 isn't scary. Moving on. Seven is Five Nights at Freddy's 1, unfortunately. It's a great first time. It's horrifying the first time if you've never watched anyone play it. But after that, you know, it's kind of hard to get scared by it. Not that it's impossible. I've gotten jumped by it trying the 2020 mode and actually got genuinely freaked out. But once you get used to all that, it's kind of hard to be taken by surprise. It's hard for the jump scares to really be effective. So although Five Nights at Freddy's 1 had a good initial run and initial shock value, you can get used to it pretty quick. Number 6 is Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Also a really good initial shock. The only difference here is that Foxy actually can get you pretty good because he just decides to show up and jump scare you out of absolutely nowhere, no matter what. He's just really random. He just comes out of nowhere, right? He's a pretty good, consistent, scary threat. And there's also the Shadow Bunny Easter egg, which I hate looking at. I just hate watching him stand there. I remember the first time I got that Easter egg, I froze. I hated it. So, although FNaF 2 has a couple of decent redeeming values, it's still pretty much the same story as the first one. You know, once you get used to it, it's pretty hard to actually get scared by the game. So that's why it's all the way down at number 6. 5 is Security Breach. Now, don't get me wrong, Security Breach easily has the worst jump scares in the series. Even worse than Springtrap. I think Springtrap might even be louder than the jump scares in Security Breach. The difference with Security Breach is it has a lot of really good scenarios and situations because of its 3D free roam nature, and it can actually get creative with how they use the animatronics and whatnot. It has a lot of good moments that might freak you out, or just generally creepy and unnerving, you know, stuff like that. It can use environmental storytelling, etc., things like that. And I think Security Breach did a pretty good job of that for a first time run through. And the introduction to Sundrop and Moondrop was really well executed. That part was actually pretty freaky. Number 4 is going to be Five Nights at Freddy's Sister Location. Sister Location is probably one of the best first times in regards to the entire franchise because it's a totally different experience from the first 4 games, and you actually have these linear objective kind of things, and they have completely different survival mechanics which are always keeping you on your toes. It's a really good, tense game. Night 4 will obviously stop being scary after you've died 3 times, but everything else is just really unsettling, disturbing, quiet, dark. Right, the atmosphere is really heavy in that one, and the jump scares can get you pretty good as long as you weren't actually expecting them. You know, I think it's just a pretty solid entry as far as scares go. Custom Night may not be able to scare you all that much, but you know, I think the entirety of the first 5 night kind of campaign mode sort of thing does a really good job of always at least keeping that pressure on and being heavy, if that makes sense. And also the jump scares aren't pitifully quiet, so that's also a good thing. Number 3 is Pizzeria Simulator. I think the big thing here is that you can't see anything, basically. Like, yeah, you got that radar monitor thing, but you really don't know anything, right? Like, you just look at where they're at, but you can't see and you can hardly hear anything going on around you. And they could just show up at any moment while you're doing your tasks, and it's just that pressure's always on you. I think it just does a really good job of that, and the jump scares are actually better than Sister Location a little bit, I think, or at the very least they're more well executed in like that sense of what I was just saying, how you can't really see or hear anything. Not to mention how you can make the game harder for yourself, and like, yeah, you can get used to it, but I don't know, I feel like it has a much higher potential of jumping you randomly than the other games do. Also, sitting across from them at the table, oh, first time I did that, dude, I was stun locked, I was frozen. I did not want to move. Like, I really did not want to do the little checklist thingy. I was scared of them killing me. I think they got me like one time. Springtrap kind of got annoying, but oh well. Pizzeria Simulator is one of the most scary. I think it's the one that's easiest to stay scary out of all the games, so that's why it's so high on the list.
Document results.
Did I catch you off guard?
Number 2 is Help Wanted. It's cheating. It's VR. Duh. So, some of the modes really aren't that scary, and the jump scares actually did start to get really quiet in this game in particular. I think it's because they were afraid of possibly having some kind of issues with people having the volume really loud on the Oculus, and then suddenly health conditions might actually take part here. Maybe people get too scared. I don't know, but the jump scares started to get really quiet, starting with this game in particular, and while that may be a negative, the actual scenarios they put you in can be horrifying. Five Nights at Freddy's 1 in VR freaking sucks. Not in the bad way, in the good way. It sucks. It's really scary. I hated seeing the animatronics right next to me for the first time. That was really well executed. 2, not too bad. 3 actually got a little bit scary in VR, and there's certain situations that are really scary. Help Wanted just did a great job integrating Five Nights at Freddy's into VR for the first time. I think Steel Bull Studios deserves a lot of credit in that regard, because technically speaking, this was their first game outside of ports, so I think they did a solid job with Help Wanted, and a lot of those situations are just great and horrifying in VR. Now, if you don't have a VR, I guess it wouldn't scare you as bad, but since my experience is on the VR, I have to count it there. The FNaF 4 bedroom also really sucks in VR. It's just scary. Like, it could stay pretty decently scary. I think one of the biggest ones was walking around that Funtime Foxy area from Sister Location. Like, that part was pretty scary in Sister Location, but in VR, oh. I actually have a video on my phone of my dad playing that. It was pretty great. But yeah, I think Help Wanted was just a great game, and it actually was able to be and stay pretty scary. Number 1, Five Nights at Freddy's 4. Five Nights at Freddy's 4 has a psychological advantage in the way that it sets up its jump scares. Now, maybe if you're just sitting in the room and your screen like blanks out or whatever, and then the scare happens, yeah, maybe that's kind of predictable. But when you go up to the doors and you're forced to turn the volume up so you can hear the breathing, you turn your volume up, you hear that breathing, but if you make a mistake and hit the flashlight, it's your fault. You decided you were safe enough to use the flashlight, and therefore that jump scare kind of turns a 180 on you. And, you know, it exaggerates the effect of the jump scare greatly. It's got like a psychological effect on you. And then there's fun with Plush Trap and the Balloon Boy thing, Nightmare Balloon Boy. Those have just always been scary, if we're being perfectly honest. Like we can agree those were always kind of scary, right? In VR, it's not really any better, but we're talking about the 4th game here, not Help Wanted. The designs of the animatronics are scary. You know, you being forced to turn your volume up makes it great, right? The gameplay loop kind of keeps you on your toes just enough. FNaF 4 is the most consistently scary, I think. It may not have the biggest jump effect, maybe. I think I'd give that one to either... I think I'd give that to Pizzeria Simulator, maybe even Sister Location. It just depends who you are, or if like the initial shock value got to you for the other games. I don't know, but FNaF 4 is the one that stays the most consistently scary for me, and that's why it's number 1 on the list, just because of that psychological advantage that they put on you in how they set up their jump scares. That is going to do it for me. Do you have a different list from mine? Contact me. I'll make it into a video for you. It does not require a lot of effort on your part. And that is going to do it for me. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a brilliant day. Yeet.